Disclaimer, this podcast is not affiliated with, endorsed by, or connected to Alcoholics Anonymous, Al-Anon, or any other 12-step program. Content provided is based solely on personal experiences and information that has been shared with me. The purpose of this podcast is to share insights in the hope that they may be helpful to listeners. I am not in any way a professional in the fields of addiction or recovery, so the opinions expressed are solely my own. For professional advice, for support, information, or help about 12-step programs, please consult with a qualified professional, not me. Attend official program meetings, which are on their official websites. Thanks. Self-preservation, duty, love, high mission, and shoes. Shoes, glorious shoes. What do shoes have to do with Tradition 5? Listen and find out. Before I begin Tradition 5, I was reflecting back, listening to the last few episodes, and gosh, my voice is really choppy. No, my voice is choppy. My mind is choppy, but it is choppy. It's like chop, 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 suey. So thank you for being able to ride this chop suey of a brainstorm of spiritual information that I'm sharing with y'all. So really appreciate it. I thought it was my really shoddy editing that it sounded and looked, but it actually turned out that it wasn't, because when I looked at the little voice recording where I thought it would have been cut and pasted together, it was actually just the way I was speaking. So yeah, just wanted to also put that little thing in there. And there I also go, not practicing Tradition 3 and accepting that I am who I am and this is just who I am. So let's get back to Tradition 5. Okay, Tradition 5 states, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. Like the last 4 traditions, take out the word alcoholic, and it reads, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message. Take that a step back, and it can read as, each person has but one primary purpose, to carry the message, right? To carry a message. So what are the messages that I'm sending and receiving? Beep, 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 beep. Ground control to Major Tom. I love that I'm laughing at myself. That's a good thing. Hopefully you're laughing along with me like, girl, she's so crazy. Honestly, how isn't she locked up? That is a miracle. Individuals. One primary purpose, carry the message. That message, yeah, it's like, what am I putting out there? Because I can give a lot of mixed messages. And this will come later on when we discuss the concepts, where clarity is power is one of the themes in the concepts. This begins to introduce that concept. I love this quote from the 12 and 12, which is the book, right? 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. And it says, shoemaker, stick to thy last. Better do one thing supremely well than many badly. That's what happens when I am not keeping to my one purpose. Example, I cannot be my sister's life coach, nutritionist, personal trainer, therapist, financial advisor, add to this list ad infinitum, because going back to Tradition 3, I am a sister to my sister, and that's all I can be to my sister. Well, then how do I know how to be a sister? Well, I'm going to do my best, right? Tradition 2, sometimes I will look up words that I'm overly familiar with. So I had to get real basic here, and I had to go back to the dictionary and look up like, well, what does the word sister mean? And then from there, start to think of, well, what kind of sister would I like to have in my life? And then be that. Become the change you wish to see in the world. I had to learn how to be loving and compassionate and kind, to listen with an open ear, to not always come in and be your therapist. I've got 2 sisters. Not like my sisters are listening to this, but maybe someday down the road, in a few years from now, or who knows, like maybe this podcast really reaches up there and my sisters will be listening to this going like, is she talking about me or is she talking about you? And they'll also be maybe thinking, why is she talking about us? But there I go, going into other people's heads. That is not a safe place for Lucimilla to be. Being in other people's heads is not safe. I can't even control the monkeys and the unattended nursery school children in my brain. They're all out there without a zookeeper, without parental supervision. And this is why I end up going on these tangents. works. Anyway, shoemaker, stick to thy last. A shoemaker, another simple example. It's saying that because a shoemaker is not going to be a baker. That's not what a shoemaker is good at. Well, there could be shoemakers that bake, but you get what I'm saying. I don't want a shoemaker going in and doing my surgery. Like if I had to get surgery, I don't want a shoemaker doing it. I want a qualified, excellent surgeon to do what the surgeon knows what to do. So this is what this edition is emphasizing, is that pausing and recognizing that when someone's getting impatient with me or angry with me, which happens a lot, you can imagine people being impatient with me because I'm even impatient with me. I'm learning to be better about it. But when there's that restless, irritable discontentedness in another person, I'll ask myself, am I being clear? Or I'll literally ask them, is there something that I'm not conveying? Am I confusing you? Because I recognize that I may be trying to be all things to all people, which is a recipe for disaster. So what I realized, again, going back to that group autonomy, if I really want the best, tradition 2, and I want to play my part, tradition 1, in that group, I want to just stick to the one thing that is my role in that group dynamic. So even in my private relationship, what is this like? My private dancer, in my intimate relationships, at my Oz. Hello, I am not perfect, okay? I'm a human being. I definitely slide a lot in this, but I get better. As I say in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, I grow along spiritual line. I do my best. So if I'm trying to be, so help me God, I don't want to be his mother. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be his mother. I want to be his girlfriend. That is what I focus on. I want to be that girlfriend to him. I don't want to be his workout coach. I tried that one. He got frustrated with me. And so that ended pretty quickly. I try not to be his nutritionist, even though I'm certified in these things, but I just because I even have the professional qualification to help him with working out, better eating, from a yoga perspective, stretching, helping him with tight muscles. That's what I do too. Like all this other stuff. It's not my job. If he asks me, I can impart information, but I'm not all of that to him. I just have to be there as his better half. No, as his other half. No, he's a whole man and I'm a whole woman. So we come like whole together, like whole wheat bread. It needs the flour and the sugar. So integral parts. Anyway, we work in partnership. So I just always put that best foot forward and focus on just the role I'm being with him. And it doesn't mean that if he's upset, I'm going to listen, but I'm not going to be his counselor. I'm not going to be his therapist. And so help me, Lord. I am not going to be his sponsor. I'm not a sponsor. And for those that are listening, they're like, what the heck's a sponsor? A sponsor is someone that takes a person in 12-step through the 12 steps. So in AA, it's through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. In Al-Anon, there's Path to Recovery. There's a couple of other books too. But anyway, that's what a sponsor's job is. I'm not a sponsor. I'm not his mother. I'm not his therapist. I'm not his legal counselor. I'm not his financial advisor. Whatever it is, I'm just here to love him as he is and to share this home together, to be the parent to our little chihuahua. We collectively come together and we each have roles and responsibility within the group dynamic. I do love to clean and I love to cook, so I do that. So he gets the garbage and the dishwashing, which I still think he doesn't, I don't mind it, but I think he'd rather be doing something else like watching football. I'm talking for Americans that are listening out there. I'm talking soccer, not American football. Okay, gotta get back on track. And I've lost my place. This is what happens. I just and then I forget where I am. So that's basically tradition 5, is it helps us define our roles and responsibilities in our group, whatever those group not dynamics, but just in a group. So dynamics. Okay. In a group at work or with my clients, I'm going to be the somatic therapist. I'm going to help them with whatever pain they're experiencing to the best of my ability. But if I can't help them, I'll send them to someone that can. When I teach yoga, I'm just a yoga teacher and I'll impart information that's within the scope of being a yoga teacher. So I like to look at it as my scope of practice. Or the other one, this is above my pay grade. And most of it is is above my pay grade. If I'm crossing that boundary and that role and responsibility into someone else's, then it's no surprise that they're going to get upset. They could retaliate. They could feel frustration. They could shut down or whatever it is. And I have to recognize that I've been trying to be everything to everyone. And that's also really exhausting too, which explains why I came in exhausted, broken, and just so beaten down and worn out, just trying to be all things to all people. It reminds me of my old sponsor used to say to me, Bismillah, there's two kinds of business, mine and none of mine. And most of it is none of mine. Most of it is none of my business. And I don't like that, because if you're standing within a 6 to 12 feet radius of me, I feel like it's my business. I got to help you. The problem is 90% of the time I step into the territory of not my business, and then I get stung by the not my business bees. Bzz. I try not to do that. I try to avoid that self-inflicted pain and just keep to my side of the garden and not pay attention to whether someone has weeds or not. If they ask me, hey, Lisma, what do you do about these weeds? I'll say, well, here's what I do, but it may not work for you. There are some other ways. You understand? So even then, even if they do ask me, I'm not going to assume that I still know that I've got the answer for them. I'll say, here's what I did, or this is what I've discovered. Take it or leave it. It may work for you. It may not. You may discover something else. Tradition 5 really helps me to put, for me, on that spiritual perspective, God is the ultimate authority, right? Going back to love being that ultimate authority. And for me, I call it God. For you, you call it what you call it. But I know that there's this power, there's this loving, caring power in my life that I call God. If I let that power of love work in my life, then my relationships do get better. God is actually wanting me to keep the focus on myself and not go about trying to be the queen bee in everybody's life, because, like I said, I'll get stung. And that ain't pretty. That's it. That's the wrap up of Tradition 5. Pretty easy. That's what you go out there and practice. Recognize, like, oh my God, I right now am trying to be not just a friend, but my friend's counselor, love advisor, and therapist. And that is not what being a friend is to me. I listen with an open heart, but after that I have to button my lip, and that is hard. It takes work, but it does get easier. I get tons and tons and tons of practice. So you can see I'm going to stop now because I'm just repeating. I'm like a bad 70s one-hit wonder rock ballad song right now that's just like in that groove. Get into the groove. Don't want to get in that groove. I'm going to end it here. I've said enough. You know what to do this week. Go practice this. See if you can catch yourself becoming more than that shoemaker. And I'll see you all. Oh, before I forget, I want to thank my first commenter. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Thank you, Eddie. You rock. So I have my first reviewer other than me. You could check that out. It's actually quite funny. I did my own review. And I have my first commenter. And I want to thank y'all because I actually broke the 100 download mark. So that's really huge for me. I'm at 114. Ooh, exciting. See you next week. And that ends another round, ding, 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 of the traditions. Brought to you by Lusmila. Thank you all. Please, for the love of all that's sacred, subscribe, share, comment, review. I have to thank Disco Gal, know who you are, girl, for reviewing. I even left my own review. That's how geeky and cheeky I am. So review, like, comment, share, subscribe, and we'll see you all next time. Oh, and check out my link tree. It's got some other stuff. And once we do the traditions and concepts, there'll be a whole host of other things. Do you know how hard it is to just talk into a round black ball and look at a computer screen of your own voice moving? Really weird. Oh, I don't know how I'm doing this. Anyway.